Chapter 4 of Jin Ping Mei Part 1. Go into Wushan to have fun with the Pan family. When Mrs. Wang went out with the money, she smiled broadly at the woman and said, "I'll go to the street to get a bottle. Madam, please sit down with the officials. There's wine in the bottle. If there's nothing left, sift a few more." After eating with the senior officials, I went straight to County East Street, where I bought a bottle of good wine and spent a while. The woman heard this and said, "My godmother, don't go. We don't have much use for the slave wine." The mother-in-law then said, "Ah, madam, the official is not someone else. I have nothing to do with you and have a meal with you. What's the matter?" The woman said no need and sat down but did not move. The mother-in-law pulled the door shut, tied it with a rope, and locked the two of them in the house. When the road sat down, one end was locked. When the woman saw Wang Po gone, she pulled her chair aside and sat down, but only peeked at her. Simon King was sitting opposite, looking at him with salivating eyes, and then asked again, "You just forgot to ask your wife's surname?" The woman lowered her head and replied with a smile, "The surname is Wu." Simon King pretended not to listen and said, "Your surname is Du." But the woman turned her head away, smiled, and whispered, "You are not deaf." Simon King said with a smile, "Bah, I forgot. It's Wu, but there are very few people named Wu in King County. There is only a 3-inch ding selling cakes in front of the county named Wu Daling. Do you dare to belong to the lady family?" When the woman heard this, her face turned red. She lowered her head and said with a smile, "He is the slave's husband." After Simon King heard this, he remained silent for a long time, dumbfounded, and pretended to be silent. The woman smiled, glanced at him sideways, and said in a low voice, "You have not been wronged, so why are you calling me coolie?" Simon King said, "I call you coolie on my wife's behalf," but Simon King said that the wife is older than the wife, and the wife is short. Only care about Bai Cow. While the woman was lowering her head to fiddle with her skirt, she was biting the cuff of her shirt again, making a rattling sound, and she glanced at him sideways. Simon King Tui was so hot that he took off his green gauze pleats and said, "My dear, please help me put it on my godmother's bed." The woman just bit her sleeve and turned it away, refusing to accept his offer. She laughed in a low voice and said, "You can't break your own hands. So how can you give orders to others? People have to settle for themselves." While he reached across the table and put it on the bed, he deliberately flicked the table and a chopstick fell. But it was fate, and the chopstick just fell under the golden lotus skirt. Simon King poured wine to persuade the woman, but the woman smiled and ignored him. But he waited for him to pick up the chopsticks and let him eat the vegetables. I looked round and couldn't find one. Jin Lian lowered his head, kicked his toes, and said with a smile, "This is not your chopstick." When Simon King heard about it, he walked past Jin Lian and said, "So it's here." He squatted down and, without picking up the chopsticks, took off the toes of his embroidered shoes and pinched them. The woman started to laugh and said, "What's wrong with that?" "I'm going to scream." Simon King knelt down and said, "My wife, I'm so sorry for this little man." As he said this, he touched him. "Pants." The woman spread her hands and said, "You are such a crooked bastard. But I want to beat you with a big ear scraper," Simon King said with a smile. "My wife beats the villain to death, so she gets some benefits." So without any explanation, he carried Mrs. Wang to the bed, took off her clothes, and had fun together. But he said that since this woman hooked up with Zhang Dahu, this old man is as soft as snot and pus as sauce. How can he be so happy? Even if you are married to Wushan University. Just think about it. How much power can a 3-inch thing have? Now I meet Simon King, a man who has been accustomed to romance for a long time and is very capable. How can I not be happy about it? But see, the mandarin ducks with their necks crossed are playing in the water, and the phoenixes are piercing the flowers. Happy to work hard to connect the branches, sweet, and tie the knot together. One presses her red lips closely, and the other presses her pink face sideways. He is tall in stockings, with 2 crescent moons showing on his shoulders. The golden hairpin fell sideways, and a dark cloud piled up beside the pillow. Oaths of oath to the mountains, fight to win all kinds of charms. Shy clouds and timid rain, rubbing all kinds of enchanting. The chirping of a warbler never leaves my ears. The saliva is sweet, and the tip of the tongue is stuck out with laughter. Willow's waist veins are strong in spring, and Cherry's mouth is slightly wheezing. The starry eyes are dim, and the delicate sweat is flowing down the fragrant jade. The soft breasts are rippling, and the peony heart is dripping with dew. The marriage is harmonious, and the affair is really delicious.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.